Chapter 8. The Council Hears. The council chambers occupied the highest inhabited level of Driftspire Oriet. All polished metal and crystal panels and light from windows looking out on open sky. The kind of light that reminded you, subtly and constantly, that you were above everything else. The full assembly of 23 counselors had been called on short notice, which meant they already suspected the reason. Kess stood before the horseshoe table with Vyra at her left shoulder and Thane at her right and Pyria slightly behind. The four of them visibly transformed, making no effort to conceal what they were. Valk stood at the chamber's edge in full uniform. Torn sat at the technical station, his new bark patches visible above his collar. Counselor Hadrian chaired the assembly. He looked at them, the way people look at something impossible, standing right in front of them. He'd lived long enough to have seen the impossible before. "Chief Torn," he said, "you requested this assembly on grounds of existential emergency. The floor is yours." Torn stood and activated the technical display. For a moment, the projection surged out of his control, numbers and curves overlapping into a bright tangle. Then the crystal interface flared hot, and he had to pull his hand back and shake it out. A murmur ran through the gallery. Through the network, Kess felt Vyra's spike of alarm at the burn, sharp and quickly folded away. Torn resettled the display the second time, fingers slower and more deliberate, and did not mention what had happened. "Dawn forged degradation across all 7 Driftspires," he said. "The real figures, not the ones in the official reports." He let that sit. 12 months, not the 18, the last briefing quoted. The cascade failures began recently, and the degradation is exponential from this point forward. 23 people were simultaneously doing arithmetic they didn't want to finish, and the room went quiet with them. Kess watched Torn present. What she'd only heard in his voice over the comm, she could see now too. He was smooth, persuasive, organized. Everything a chief engineer should be when presenting to a council. But the Torn she'd met in the laboratory had been different. He was the man who'd asked Vyra whether integration was as clean as she was making it sound. He'd evaluated her honest answer with an engineer's skepticism, not blind trust. This one hadn't paused once. This Torn was better at his job. That was the problem. Vyra, standing beside Kess, shifted her weight slightly. Through the network, Kess felt her discomfort. "And the solution you're proposing," Hadrian said, his eyes moving to Kess, "involves these individuals." "The solution involves voluntary integration with the planetary consciousness," Kess said. She chose her words with more care than she had in the fabrication shop. A choice offered to anyone willing to make it. One that allows human consciousness to work in partnership with the systems that keep this city alive. She paused. "There's a part of this I need to be direct about. The integration changes people in more than physical ways. The way you think, the way you make decisions, the degree to which your awareness is shared with others. These changes are real, and they are irreversible. Anyone who makes this choice should make it with that understanding." Marsh had been preparing to object. Instead, his hand, already lifted to interrupt, came back down. Counselor Reeves spoke. "A physician by training. Define the process precisely. Physical effects. Cognitive effects. What changes and what doesn't." Vyra stepped forward and spoke for 6 minutes. She described the transformation with the precision she had brought to Torn's question in the laboratory. She did not oversell it. She did not minimize the fear that was reasonable to feel about it. And she added a detail she had not shared before. "There are effects I cannot fully characterize yet. After deep integration with the system, we experienced residual synchronization, shared movement patterns, shared impulses. These faded, but I cannot tell you they fade completely because we haven't had enough time to know." Reeves nodded slowly. "And those who refuse? Those who choose not to integrate?" "Protected," Pyria said. The planetary consciousness does not force. Those who refuse remain as they are. For how long? Reeves asked. If the integrated citizens can sustain the city's systems, what happens to citizens who chose otherwise? They are sustained by the community, Kess said. Integration is not a requirement for survival. It's a requirement for the city's infrastructure to survive. Marsh spoke. My objection is that we are being asked to authorize the biological transformation of our population based on the testimony of 4 people who are themselves transformed. Under time pressure created by the approach of a superior authority. And I will add, based on a presentation by Chief Torn that was notably smoother and more persuasive than any presentation he has given in his years of service to this council. The room went still. Torn looked at Marsh, and his thumb moved to the burn on his knuckles without his seeming to notice, pressing against it once. The rough-edged engineer who had filed suppressed reports until they stopped disappearing was still in there. Nobody had told him to reach for the burn. He'd just done it. Then his hand went still, and the smoothness returned. The data speaks for itself, Counselor, Torn said. The data does, Marsh agreed. I'm less certain the man presenting it does. No one filled the silence that followed. Hadrian sat back in his chair. Counselor Marsh raises a legitimate concern. I will note it for the record. He looked at Kess. Navigator Raventhorn. You were transparent about the cognitive effects of integration. Was that transparency your own initiative, or was it the integration that prompted you to offer it? It was an excellent question. Kess thought about it honestly. I don't know, she said. I believe it was my own choice. I also believe I can't be fully certain where my judgment ends and the network's influence begins. Hadrian nodded slowly. It was the most useful piece of testimony he would hear all day. Not everyone in the room heard it that way. Counselor Cade, 3 seats down, had been leaning toward abstention since Vera's testimony on synchronization. Kess watched her sit back instead, arms folding. Whatever ground the earlier honesty had gained was visibly retracting now. An admission that impressed one counselor had just cost her another. Counselor Dren leaned forward. District 12 representative. Calloused hands. My district stopped breathing yesterday. Now it breathes again. I don't know if Chief Torn's personality has changed. I know 12,000 of my constituents are alive. She looked at Marsh. I was going to vote with you. I'm not going to do that. But I want the record to show I heard your concern, and I think you're asking the right questions. The room absorbed this. Hadrian called the vote on Protocol 7 first. Hands rose around the horseshoe table, one at a time. Kess watched Dren's hand go up for suspension, watched Cade stay down. Watched 2 other counselors near Marsh raise their hands halfway and hold there before finally choosing. Watched Marsh keep his own hand in his lap, eyes fixed on the count. The tally came in slow enough that she could feel each new hand shift the outcome. At 11 and 11, with 3 counselors still deciding, the vote could genuinely have gone either way. Protocol 7 stayed suspended, 12 votes to 11. A margin of 1 meant the council was divided almost evenly on a question that did not have a clean answer. The integration centers came next. Before Hadrian could call the count, Reeves asked for the floor. She wanted one guarantee on the record before the vote. A district could still close its own center later if real concerns came up. That held true no matter what the council decided today. Yes, Kess said, that authority stays local. No exceptions. She watched something in the physician's shoulders ease before Reeves's hand went up. 13 to 10. Torn's transmission passed easily. 16 to 7. Marsh left before Hadrian called the session closed. His face was set, but not defeated. Kess watched him go and thought, he is not wrong about Torn. She had seen it too, the smoothness, the lost edges. The man who had asked the honest question in the laboratory was still in there, but he was quieter now. That was the trade. Paria had named it in the corridor with Volk. A changed life is still a life. Fine is not the right word. S. Hadrian approached her as the chamber emptied. Navigator Raventhorn, your honesty in there was either very brave or very strategic. Can it be both? Kess said. It can. In my experience, the best honesty usually is. He moved toward the door, then paused. Torres arrives tomorrow morning. I would suggest your integration centers be very busy between now and then. I would also suggest you keep Counselor Marsh's questions in mind while they are. Then he left and did not look back. Torn appeared at Kess's elbow, data crystals in hand, a faint burn mark still visible across 2 knuckles. 18 engineering contacts standing by. I've been drafting the transmission for months. Send it, Kess said. She nodded at his hand. That still hurt? He glanced down at the mark as if he'd forgotten it was there, then flexed the fingers once, testing them. No, he said, not anymore. A beat. I noticed I didn't say anything when it happened. In front of the whole council. Old me would have sworn and asked someone for a med kit. He turned the hand over, thumb tracing the raised edge of the burn. New me apparently decided it wasn't worth the room it would take up. He looked up at her. I don't know if that's discipline or if it's just already gone. Torn. Kess waited until he met her eyes. How do you feel? I feel like I know exactly what needs to be done, he said. And I feel like that certainty is not entirely mine. He paused. I'm choosing to act on it anyway, because the math is the math. But I hear what Marsh said. Kess held his eyes a moment longer than the exchange needed, then nodded and let him go. The city hummed outside its crystal windows. 40,000 people going about their lives, most of them still unaware that by dawn the choice would have a name and a queue and a door they could walk through. Kess had until sunrise to make sure enough of them wanted to.
Chapter Guild, Stories for Your Mind.